What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 10-7 MMA show. And again, we are back at it with a quick impromptu video, just jumping on the live. That's the way I like to do it. We're talking about this brand new fight that has been announced. Sort of, it's been talked about the last, actually, I'd say week or two, but I think it's been officially announced, and they just officially came on the MMA Hour to talk about it. It is Jake Paul versus Mike Perry, and this is going to be on July 20th. And this is happening in regular boxing, not bare knuckle boxing. So I want to talk about this fight and talk about Jake Paul in particular, just to give my perspective. And where I want to start is the way that a lot of MMA fighters talk about Jake Paul. Now, take this with a grain of salt, right? The video that I'm going to show you guys actually is fighters and MMA fighters and mixed and UFC fighters in particular talking about Jake Paul, but this is from 2 years ago. Some of these stances I'm sure may have changed, some may not have. But I wanted to start here because I think there's a lot of anger towards Jake Paul in the mixed martial arts community, maybe even in the boxing community at large, now that he's going out to fight Mike Tyson. I know some people aren't so thrilled about that, but I want to talk through some of the criticism that he gets as well as the hate and why I think it's unfounded. Why I want to tell you why I'm a fan of Jake Paul and I'm looking forward to this fight and why I'm really appreciative of what he's doing, because it's sort of a journey that fans can relate to, in my opinion. Somebody like me who loves the sport had started training because they love the sport so much and they wanted to learn it, and then taking that, bridging that gap and going out to actually competing. Because I can tell you for a fact that when people want to downplay what Jake Paul's doing and talk smack about him, for me, like when they say, hey, well, fine, sure, you're going to fight an MMA guy in boxing, but yeah, you would never fight them in their own game. Well, that's the same with me. Yeah, I would never fight an MMA fighter in an MMA fight because I get smoked. Anybody will get smoked, but you have this little twist on it and you go into a different realm where you're both still kind of striking. It's a little bit more potentially feasible. But let me tell you something. I've done pure boxing sparring with MMA guys. It's terrifying still. Even with my coach, is terrifying. So to say that you're going to go and box an MMA fighter and say that that's no big deal, you're out of your mind. That is a terrifying endeavor for any non-fighter, any normal person. So you have to give him his respect. These are tremendous challenges that he's taken on. And he's gotten good at the sport of boxing. To even beat an MMA fighter in the sport of boxing, that takes a lot of skill. So we're going to start with some of this one video that I found not too long ago. And we're going to get the takes of different MMA fighters, starting with Kamaru Usman, about Jake Paul and what he thinks about Jake Paul. Here we go.
We've got this Mickey Mouse Clubhouse kid that's this Disney kid over there that's fighting, that's kind of picking off, just guys that aren't necessarily fighters, and he's starting to think that he's a fighter, and that's just kind of like the stage that we're in now. It's these YouTube kids picking fights with professional actual fighters, because it's almost like a no-lose situation for them, because they go in there and get beat up, they still make a lot of money. And so that kid is kind of getting dangerously close to taking me to that violent place, because he has no business, mentioning my name in his mouth, but he's doing that. And now he's putting up pictures of me and my family, to where it's starting to slowly shift to that dangerous place, to where it could be a problem wherever I see him. So I was sitting at the
all right, so we're gonna stop with this clip right here. I think this is at the beginning when Jake Paul was trying to troll everybody to get a reaction. And I think obviously, look, that's why a lot of people did get upset with him, including Daniel Cormier. We're gonna play some other clips. So this is again at the beginning when people thought Jake Paul was out of his mind when he was calling out Conor McGregor for boxing and striking, even saying Jorge Masvidal and some of these other seasoned strikers would just annihilate Jake Paul. If you remember this back when he first got on this boxing kick. Now, I think the conversation would be very different. Right now, I think people recognize, like, yes, he actually probably would beat most MMA fighters in a boxing match. Think about that shift in mindset. Think about that point where it's like, yeah, of course he'd beat him, but that's because he trains boxing. He's fighting non-boxers, so come on. But let me remind you, not too long ago, people thought this was ludicrous, thought he was getting into very dangerous territory that he did not understand. But he actually proved a lot of people wrong in that he was able to develop the skill set and fight real boxers and beat them, right? He almost beat Tommy Fury. He has beaten some other professional boxers. People are calling them, what's the term? Tomato cans, right? But they're still professional boxers. So anybody wants to say that, fine, you start boxing in your mid-20s and see how far you get in a few years and see if you can even stand up against these quote unquote tomato cans. They would still probably smoke most people with that short amount of training. If I went in with my 5 years of Muay Thai training, I get smoked, right? In a pure boxing match. So there's a lot that he's done that I think he should get credit for at this point. If you look at it from the perspective of, hey, this is just a fan of the sport coming in, training late in the game, and developing this incredible skill set in a very short amount of time. All right, now we're going to go to another perspective on another mixed martial artist talking about Jake Paul. Here we go.
It's like this guy's like being like so ridiculous. Like I need to tell him something. So I just walk over there and I said, hey, I'm not gonna play your games. I go, don't mess with me. I wanted to grab him by the face and smash him into the ground, but I can't do that at work. I would have gotten into a lot of trouble. This kid wants to fight. Okay, I'll fight him, but it'll be a mixed martial arts competition. If he wants to actually fight with me, fight me in mixed martial arts, and then I'll fight him all the way down at 205. This is not going to be fun. I'm telling you right now, at 42 years old, bad back and everything, I'm going to torture him.
So again, this is back when Jake Paul first came onto the scene and he was talking smack to Daniel Cormier. Daniel Cormier wasn't playing around. I remember he got really upset and he went up to him. Jake Paul came to a fight with a bunch of bodyguards. If you guys remember, this whole drama and scenario unfolds. So Daniel Cormier was like, don't play with me. I'm not one to be played with. And he wasn't messing around. Again, I'd be curious to know his perspective now because this is a bit of a older take. We're going to go to one more clip from this video, and then we're going to go to the presser today, or the appearance today on MMA, which was hilarious. I got a couple clips lined up. Check this out. One last clip. Here we go.
I think what rubs people the wrong way is when you haven't faced the level of opposition, you know, as far as professionals, to really call yourself, you know, you're one of the best to do this, and then you're saying, oh, I'm one of the greatest, I'm good at this. When you start doing that, I think that's what rubs people the wrong way, to where people are, you know, starting to have that, you know, disdain for you. They're just like, oh, you're not a real fighter.
I've had some kids at my gym go that he's used.
So again, it's going back to that idea. And I think this is where people get agitated when he does. Like, I think at the beginning when he was calling himself a real fighter, this and that, I think he was doing that to troll people. What's up, Western Mass Climber? Yeah. And so basically, look, he was trying to get a rise out of people. It obviously worked, and it created this massive commotion. I think he's stepped back from just trying to agitate people, because now people have put respect on his name. People like to see his boxing, like to see his fights. I went to his fight against Nate Diaz, even though at the end of the day, I'm a mixed martial arts fan. I'm a fan of the UFC, but he puts on a good show. He gives a good presser and a good buildup, and I want to see what will happen between that fight. He's choosing his match as well. Say what you say about this Mike Tyson fight that is scheduled, but it is interesting. I don't think people really know what's going to happen. I know a lot of people are saying Mike Tyson's old and this and that, but I think it's an intriguing matchup. There are a lot of people that are saying that Mike Tyson will smoke Jake Paul. So you take the best boxer of all time that is sort of out of that Goldilocks, you know, well past his prime, well past his prime. But again, he's still the greatest boxer of all time in a lot of people's eyes, against Jake Paul, who's somebody that I can relate with. Just a normal guy, like, yes, an athlete, a high school wrestler, but kind of a normal guy who decided to get into the sport late in the game, has gotten pretty good, okay? Not world's greatest boxer by any means, but it's an interesting question. Who's going to win? And I think he's doing a great job of picking his fights. And now we come to the fight that has just been announced for July 20th, Jake Paul versus Mike Perry. And I can tell you on paper and to some extent, this is a bit more interesting because now he's taking somebody from the MMA world who's got a huge fan base, but they're known for right now boxing, not regular boxing, but still bare knuckle boxing. So this creates that, again, question of, wait a minute, will the bare knuckle boxing skills translate over to traditional boxing in 10-ounce gloves? That's what they're wearing, to give Mike Perry an advantage to be able to smoke Jake Paul. We know how tough Mike Perry is, as well. But then we get Jake Paul doing all this training for this amount of time with the best coaches in the world, etc. So it creates this question. Now, before I give you my thoughts on what I think is going to be the outcome of this fight, because I have a very strong opinion as to who's going to be victorious, I'm going to play you a couple clips from the MMA Hour, because the smack talk is incredible. We knew it would be incredible because Mike Perry is the best. When he talks smack, he does not back down. He's hilarious, super smart, super quick. So let's check this out. Here we go.
July 20th, I'm going to show you who your dad is. That's for sure. All right.
Yeah, it's funny that you've been saying that too, because you're the green one. You're very new to this game, and I'm going to show you how much you don't know. I'm going to teach you a lesson on July 20th. It's a fact, bro. I've been in this game a long time, and you came up and took the easy route. But I appreciate the opportunity that you have. You're 9-1 in boxing, and the only real fight you have was Tommy Fury. I'm going to do what he did to you, but much better.
Can you even teach lessons? Like, I don't even know if you know how to read.
Oh, so you didn't learn a lot after our first sparring match. You didn't? Because I'm pretty sure you learned a lot in those last 4 rounds.
You know what happened.
It was
you know what happened.
You popped me in the first 2 rounds, but I wanted to feel it. I like to get punched in my face, Jake.
Okay, Mike. You know what happened, brother.
So you can already see what's amazing about the smack talking back and forth, because Jake Paul's good too. Jake Paul's really good at trolling people. But you see how Mike Perry sort of dodged a bullet there. Like Jake Paul's like, hey, do you even know how to read? Notice he didn't even address that. He didn't even address that slam. He just goes in. He's like, I'm pretty sure you learned a lesson because I pieced you up in the last 4 rounds, whatever. So you can see like they have an amazing back and forth. So this is just like gonna be such a good build-up. All right, we're gonna go to one more clip and then we'll talk about what I think is gonna happen in this fight and what we can expect to see. Here we go.
Jake, is it fair to say that you've never fought anyone quite like him, who's as tenacious as him, who's as intense as him, aggressive as him? He's gonna bring something different to the table. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, but in the sport of boxing, toughness will get you killed. So all that hoopla, all that bare knuckle, idiotic shit
Yeah,
coming
that ball
forward.
trainer you got, BJ Flores, he's selling you some bullshit Girl Scout cookies, boy. All the tough this, tough that. Y'all can sell any story you want. But the real fact is, when I'm in your face July 20th and I won't get out of your face, there's nothing you can do about it. I'm in there all night long. You're going to get married to my
I kind of like that. Get all up in there, bro. I do. Yes, I do, bro. I want to be married. I want to be entangled with you forever. I'll even hit you a little reach around, brother, if you want that.
This is ridiculous. All right. Anyway, so there's the smack talking. There's the back and forth. What's up, Pern? Welcome to this quick impromptu live stream. Yeah. So you can see we're in for a show. We're in for it's going to be a really fun presser, and Mike Perry is going to give an amazing fight. All right. Now we come to the question of what is going to happen. We have a bare knuckle boxing master in Mike Perry. He's undefeated in BKFC. He's just been tearing it up, and a lot of that is probably due to his toughness. He's also got tremendous striking. He's incredible. Against Jake Paul. Now Jake Paul has only lost to Tommy Fury, I believe, but he's won all his other boxing matches. Again, primarily against MMA fighters, a couple other boxers that have been thrown in the mix. But Jake Paul's looking sharp. Now, a thing we have to give credit to Jake Paul about is that he's been working nonstop. He's even said that boxing has saved his life, that giving him that focus and that outlet to train and really improve himself using the sport has given him clarity in his life. And he's just fallen in love with it and devote himself to it fully. And we can see that. We can see that as he's progressed as a boxer and the way he's done in these subsequent matches after his initial kind of amateur fights. So he's doing the work, he's putting in the time, and he still says he wants to be a world champion, whether or not that's a pipe dream, whatever. But he has proven himself as a boxer. Now we come to this fight, and we're taking a bare knuckle boxer and moving him into Jake's world. That's really Jake's world. And you might say, well, so they're so similar. We're going to give the edge to Mike Perry because he's been in the fight game way longer. He's had so much success. 5-0. This is a fair match. I'm going to disagree. I'm going to definitely give the edge to Jake Paul. Would 100% bet on Jake Paul, and I'm going to tell you why. I've talked to Justin about this, and I didn't understand the nuances between traditional boxing with 10 ounce, 12 ounce, 14 ounce, whatever the size of the gloves may be. But the differences of having boxing gloves on versus bare knuckle are very substantial. Okay. Number one, and again, this is from Justin, professional fighter, who's also a big BKFC fan. Number one, when you don't have gloves on, you can't rely on the shield as much. So a lot of these weapons and a lot of these defenses that you can rely on in traditional boxing are taken away when you're doing bare knuckle, right? And that's what Mike Perry, he says he trains with gloves, but still, come on, at the end of the day, you're training for a bare knuckle fight. So it's a different strategies, number one. Number two, you can engage in clinch work and almost like pseudo wrestling on the feet is what Justin again has told me, that those types of tactics again are nullified in boxing because you can't use your hands. You're constantly in a fist with the gloves, right? You can't grab onto people as much. So that is now taken away. Third, right, with the fact that your hands are wrapped, there's certain hits that you need to avoid. For example, punching somebody directly on the forehead and bare knuckle, you're probably going to break your hand. Maybe you won't a couple times, but eventually you're going to break your hand. It's different with gloves. You could crack somebody anywhere. You're almost never going to break your hands unless you're in an all-out long war. Like, your hands are so protected within the wraps and then the gloves on top. So it's a different game, and you can just fire as long as you're connecting with the head, you're going to be creating a lot of damage. Your hands are going to be just fine. So I think if you look at these differences between bare knuckle and traditional boxing with gloves, Jake is just going to have a tremendous advantage in terms of the game plan that he's been executing for this long versus Mike Perry. Now, even though he's been in the fight game for so long, he's going to have to adjust. That's why I give the edge to Jake Paul. Moreover, he's got the size advantage, right? He was getting ready to fight at heavyweight. I think Mike Perry's saying, hey, he's 200, no problem. He's been training for cruiserweight or whatever. I don't know the weight classes in boxing, but there's a size advantage too. Jake Paul's got a height advantage. He's probably got a reach advantage. I haven't looked that up yet, but I'm saying I would be quite shocked if Mike Perry pulls this off. Yes, it's a tough fight. Yes, Mike Perry is very tough, but I'm calling Jake Paul, and despite Mike Perry's toughness, I'm going to say Jake Paul's going to knock him out because I just don't think it's going to be the same as what we've seen in these bare knuckle fights. I think Jake Paul's got a lot of power. So that's my prediction. All right. Pern says exactly. Also, dirty boxing is so different. You don't get through the gloves the same. Yeah, 100%. And they allow more. I forgot to mention this. They allow much more dirty boxing in bare knuckle than they do in traditional boxing. So a lot of times the ref is going to jump in and break it up if Mike Perry tries to do some damage in the clinch. So, I mean, there's just all these factors. Love to hear your thoughts. By the way, if you guys are on the live stream right now, if you like what you see, make sure to click that like button. I'd really appreciate it. And if you got additional comments or commentary after the fact, if you're not watching this live, leave them in the comments. We respond to everything. You can see that we respond to every single comment. So make sure to put your thoughts, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. And let's see what happens. July 20th. This is an amazing fight and a great summer of fights, despite all the pullouts that have happened recently. The UFC's done a great job. Jake Paul is doing a great job. So keeping us entertained. We love it. Thank you guys so much for joining, and I'll see you in the next video. Take it easy.